1, 2, 3. Greetings and salutations.
The universe is just doomed.
I forgive it. I hated her so much. It flames on the side of my face, heaving breaths.
Hello,
Hi, welcome. We're back.
it's us, Nicole,
And Tessa.
and we are on the air.
Oh, yes, we got the light on. We are on the air.
We got Kim here with us as our Wadsworth.
Because we're doing Clue tonight, y'all, babies.
Spoiler, it was Doom Generation in the garage with the microphone.
Yes.
I stole that from Kim. She texted me that earlier. I'm stealing that.
Yeah, no, that was perfect. I was not ready.
So yeah, we're first episode in November. We're going to talk about everybody's favorite rainy day movie.
Yes.
And let's hope it's raining the day this
I
comes
know.
out.
That would be so nice.
Be
It's
so
not raining
good.
now. It rained on Saturday last. It's supposed to
Yes,
rain
it rained on my
Saturday
birthday.
next. That's right. It thundered on your birthday. Thunder.
It got stormy.
It was a stormy night. It was a dark and stormy night. It would have
Ooh,
been perfect.
much
But
like this movie.
yes, it was.
Doom Biz.
Do it first.
702-720-DOOM. That's 702-720-3666. You can call us, and guess what? You got a little anxiety. You're not sure about calling, leaving a message, feel a little pressure.
Gonna answer.
No one's going to answer. It's going to go to voicemail. Number 2, you could text that number
You
a
could.
message.
You could.
We will read it out on the show. Follow us on Instagram, Doom Generation Pod. Buy our merch on threadless.com/Doom Generation.
We got stuff.
Support this podcast by joining our Patreon at patreon.com/Doom Generation for as low as $2 per month.
So low.
And those are all the things I'm going to say today.
That's all I'm gonna say today.
Business concluded.
Concluded. So anyway, it's a dark and stormy night.
Yeah, so the cast.
Yes, we have Tim Curry, of course.
Oh, the
Wadsworth,
legendary.
The legendary. Oh God, I do love me some Tim Curry.
In any role.
Anything at any time.
Madeline Kahn
Yes.
as Mrs. White.
We have Leslie Ann Warren as Miss Scarlet.
Michael McKean as Mr. Green.
Christopher Lloyd as Professor Plum.
Martin Mull as Colonel Mustard.
Eileen Brennan as Mrs. Peacock.
Colleen Camp as Yvette.
Lee Ving as Mr. Body, lead singer of Fear.
Anybody else did you write down? I didn't write down the cook.
I didn't, but I did write down Jane Whelan.
Oh, yes. Oh, and I wrote it in the notes later. I forgot to write his name. What's WKRP in Cincinnati's name? The chief of police.
Oh, God damn it. Head of the class guy.
Head of the class guy.
Yeah. Fuck.
Fuck. Hey,
Oh, it's
research
Martin Mull.
assistant.
Yeah. Why are you asking us?
You're asking us. Get that Google fingers. Get them Google fingers moving. Yeah, so that guy too.
I feel like it starts with an... Yeah, I was going to say
Howard
it starts
Hessman.
with an H, and there's two of them.
Yes.
Two of them.
Yes. All right, so now it's a dark and stormy night.
The clouds gather under this music. There's intrigue and mystery.
Oh, car's pulling up to a gate. It's Tim Curry
Massive estate.
putting in his little coat on the mansion on the hill.
Mm-hmm.
Gargoyles and awe.
Oh, God, 'cause it's good because it's raining and they're spitting out the...
And now, would you go to a like House on Haunted Hill, that type of deal? So
If I
like
had
you get
gotten a letter and
invited.
you got a letter and you got a letter and you got a letter. No, I would not.
You wouldn't go? You would, like, get there and go, you know what?
It's clearly like a scam or a
leaving.
murder or a kidnapping or a trafficking situation. Like, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
Y'all have fun. I'd be curious.
Yeah.
If someone else wanted to go, I might encourage somebody else that I wasn't like super
Come on,
close
you go
with.
check it out.
You go check it out.
You let me know. Send
I
me a
mean, like
text.
somebody that I would like. I wouldn't suggest.
If it's
you
cool,
go.
send me a text.
Like, can I bring my friend?
Yeah. By myself. And so you see him getting set up. Wadsworth's getting set up. He's got his bag of meat bones for the guard dogs, which like
Meat bones.
So that's just because they're vicious. But like I also got the vibe that he knew the dogs would be there, but those dogs don't like him too much.
Or they're not his dogs.
They're not
Is
his
that Not like
dogs.
his place.
Yeah.
It's someone else's
It's borrowed.
place. Yeah, or something.
And he steps in shit, and that becomes a running gag for the first 5 minutes as we meet all of our
Running
characters.
gag.
A running dog shit on your shirt.
Poo, poo, poo.
And he enters. There's
shake,
clearly
rattle,
people
and roll.
in. Yes, because shake, rattle, and roll is going on. And it's New England, 1954.
The maid is dancing and polishing the silver.
Cleaning and bopping.
Cleaning and bopping, giving the clean and jerk.
And he asks her if everything is ready, and that she has her instructions.
And then she smells poo-poo.
And she checks her shoo-shoo.
And then he goes into the kitchen, and the cook is very intense. Like,
Yes.
dinner will be ready at 7:30.
And the first guest arrives, and it is Martin Mull, a.k.a. Colonel Mustard.
God, I loved him on Roseanne.
Yeah, I loved him in a lot. Well, I didn't love him in Mr. Mom as a kid
Oh,
because he was
God,
the
yeah,
bad guy,
that's
but he's
right.
great in Mr. Mom.
That's true. He's good at that, whatever.
Kind of
I
a
do
dick.
love me some Martin Mull. Mm-hmm. I do.
I'm a fan.
Big fan, Martin Mull. Big fan.
And
Mr. Mull? Sorry,
yes.
like we're friends.
He tries to introduce himself, and Wadsworth's like, no.
No.
We
that's-
need aliases.
Yeah,
for
use
this."
your aliases. And then he also smells poop and checks his shoo-shoo. Mm-hmm. And then Wadsworth introduces himself as the butler.
Yes.
And the maid is pouring drinks to, give him what he requires
Within
reason.
And the second guest arrives is Madeline Kahn, Mrs. White.
Outfit, this hat and the veil and the...
All the women in this movie
I
are.
know.
I would take any of these outfits.
I really would.
And she also smells the doo-doo.
Right, she kind of like...
And then I want to say it stops there. I think she
Yeah,
might
I
be the
think that's
last.
the
They
last
finally were
time.
like, all right, it's
Yeah,
enough.
they're
We
like,
get
"That's
it. You smell
enough."
shit.
Indeed. So they go like into the bookcase store, which I love.
Yes.
This bookcase store in the library.
Green Gardens has got to
Oh, we
have
gotta-
one secret
we're
bookcase
gonna
store.
it's gonna be like the mystery house.
Yes.
Where you just keep knitting and knitting and knitting. We're like, we have to run from the ghosts. And they're like,
There are like
Grandma.
doors in the ceiling and shit. You're like, what is happening?
Right? Someone's going to fall off the side of the house, like 3 stories.
Doors that
That'll
go
be
nowhere.
Kim.
Yes.
Kim raised her hand.
She's like, it'll be
volunteered.
me.
She's like, it'll be me. I'm
It's
going to
gonna be
fall
me.
off the house. Upside down stairs, anybody?
And you see that Mrs. White and Colonel Mustard know each other or
Right,
something.
they
There's like a
seem
little
to know
awkward
each
moment.
other. Yes, that's right. And then we see the car broken down the road. Mm-hmm. And we have this lady all bent over in the hood.
And I'm telling you, them boobs are gravity defying in this dress, or
Right?
they are taped to the inside of this
They're
dress
probably
because
taped
there
to
is
the
no
inside
bra
of this. No.
and they're looking gorge.
And there's also like no panty line. That's a very tight
Oh,
that cut.
she looks
with that. That
fabulous.
is not a forgiven fabric. I don't know who I went. I don't
We
know.
got Southern for a second.
I do not know where I went. But I went somewhere.
Them silks take you to the south.
Yes, apparently they do. Got expansive fabrics.
Uh-huh.
Got expansive habits. Like
Yep.
I'm Beyonce. I don't know who the fuck I am right now. I don't know where I went, but wow.
So she gets picked up by Professor Plum.
Like, want a lift?
And he is a fucking pig dog through this whole thing.
Yeah, he is. And they're late for a dinner date, and they find out they're going to the same place up the hill.
Yes, and meanwhile, Mrs. Peacock enters. She's introduced. Mr. Green arrives. He's there, and this is our first mention of I'm here to meet Mr. Body.
Right. And then he's like, when Green's out there, he's like, no, sit. And like Green like sits down. He's like, no,
Not you.
The dog.
Yes, Michael McKean through this whole thing is. I mean, everybody's so good. There's
Every
nobody
single, like, this is a great like ensemble.
for sure because
You know?
nobody's overshadowed. They all have their little monologue moment.
Right.
They've all got their physical comedy
They all
moments.
shine.
So yes, everybody's arriving, and then the car stops. Miss Scarlett's frightened. The storm's raging.
She's like, why'd the car stop?
Yeah,
He's like, it's
frightened. That's right. I just wrote it like I read my fucking notes that I wrote. It's
know.
frightened.
Well, we were sitting out in the backyard, like it
That's
was like
right.
A thing.
We were taking outside notes together.
Yeah,
this
it was
time.
outside notes. The TV was outside. We were outside. The mosquito torches were lit.
Yes.
We didn't march on anything.
They
But
get
yeah, they get there and they're like, we didn't realize you two were acquainted,
We
right?
weren't.
Yeah, until like he picked us up, blah blah blah. So, they go in, they get a drink. Plum,
Everyone's
like cheers
introduced.
her.
Yes.
Like they got there together.
And she's like, ew.
right? And they're like,
away.
we all have to use our fake names, and they talk about how they're all keeping under the alias for tonight, right?
Right. And Mrs. Ho hits the dinner gong, and Mrs. Green throws his champagne on Mrs. Peacock.
I'm a little accident prone.
They get seated for dinner at their name card.
Right. And it's like, oh, a place for you. And it's like, oh, so what do you do? Is that like Mustard asks?
I'm merely a humble butler.
It's like, oh, what is that?
I buttle, sir.
I mean, that's what I think it is.
Right? What
I
else
mean,
do you
like,
do?
what else do you do?
You buttle around.
You buttle.
You do the things.
That's what, if you're born with a name like Wadsworth, you have very limited options as to what your career could be.
In the 50s, that was it.
Just like Jeeves, like,
right?
if you were,
Jeeves and
like,
Wadsworth,
if
that's
you
your
were
career.
born to be like a butler,
A butler. And
buttle.
buttle.
buttle for the rest of your life.
Do you like Kipling, Miss Scarlett?
You're actually like, sure, I'll eat anything.
That's not food.
No.
So they're waiting on Mr. Body to arrive and asking about who their host is.
Right, and he hasn't arrived, and then Yvette's like, "Oh, I'll keep something warm for him." Like, what did you have in mind, dear?
And there's some soup slurping happening.
Oh yeah, they all kind of look around like what they're supposed to do, and then Plum starts in with the slurping, so White starts in with the slurping, and then everyone starts in with the slurping.
And then Mrs. Peacock has to break the ice. She can't have silence.
She doesn't know what is going on. She rambles, but she is determined to enjoy herself.
And she almost reveals who her husband is. She
Oh.
says something about her husband's work and being a
Right.
hostess. And Mr. Green's like, I know who you is.
Yeah, I live in Washington too. Who's your husband?
And you're a politician's wife.
Right. And then
But Wadsworth comes in like, mm-mm-mm.
Uh-huh. And then Mrs. White, what does your husband do? Nothing. Lies on his back all day.
And then Thunder scares Mr. Green and he throws his soup on Miss Scarlet.
Right. Like, and then they serve the main course, and Peacock's eating it up like it's her favorite recipe.
And Wadsworth's like, yep, I knew that.
Mm-hmm.
And then we learn Professor Plum is a doctor who doesn't practice.
Right. Well, practice makes perfect. Ha.
I think most men need a little practice.
Right. And it's like, so he works for the World Health Organization in family planning. And then
Colonel Mustard really is a colonel.
right, and he also lives in D.C., but
But
Scarlet
Scarlet
knows
knows.
him. She's like, I've seen you, but you may not have seen me.
And so they realize everyone there is connected to either Washington, D.C. or the government in some way.
Right, and then again, like, who is our host?
Bing!
And-
Doorbell rings. It's
right.
Mr. Body.
Here comes Mr. Body, and he's like, what are they all doing here?
And so this part is always very confusing, especially
Yeah.
with the reveal at the end. Because, like,
Right.
I don't, yeah,
Did he
I'm confused.
also get a letter?
That's what he says, but then in the end,
When
supposedly
he's like, do they
he's
know
the
who
butler.
I am? Yeah, but
So
that's why would
why-
he ask, do they know who I am?
Yeah, I don't know. This is
Well,
very confusing.
He was in that punk band, so he's just that guy. Well, I guess I read that thing, and I don't know how, true this is. It could just be a coincidence that he was cast because of his name, because Mr. Body will be leaving soon.
Leaving.
Yeah.
They might have.
I mean,
they were
who
in
can
it for the
say?
puns in this.
I'm in it for the puns.
I did it all for the puns. As far as we're going with that.
I don't know.
As far as we're going with that. And
Yeah, I ate a little Limp Biscuit.
and so
That's
he
the second time now. I
Oh,
feel like that
no.
Limp Biscuit.
I
I'm like,
don't know. That's the
why.
first one I
because
remember.
it's a joke.
we
Because
don't.
it's a joke.
Performed at Warped Tour.
Leaving
Well, and
performed
Leaving
at the Warped
performed
Tour.
at Warped Tour with. Please tell me they were there.
2010.
Was
Oh,
it?
I don't
Oh
know.
no, I don't know if
No.
Limp Bizkit would have played 2010 Warped Tour.
They're doing a dad thing now. I don't know. It's weird.
I am not aware of
well,
what Limp Bizkit's up to right
He
now.
was in that fucking horror movie.
He directs or something
Oh
now, doesn't he?
But what
Fred
he really
Durst?
wants to do is direct. I never
Does
did
he wear
see
that
it.
red cap while he's directing?
Probably.
That'd be hilarious.
He wears an entire outfit that's made out of red caps.
Picture that. So
This is the Fred Durst Show, everybody. Welcome.
Mrs. Peacock starts demanding info, and Wadsworth says they all received a letter, including him.
Right. Like you got a letter and you got a letter and you got a letter. Get on with it.
And it says that Mr. Body's going to bring an end to a long-standing, painful financial liability.
Point is blackmail.
And then they want to know, what did Mr. Body's letter say?
Right.
He
He's
doesn't
like,
say.
right. He doesn't want to say anything. And then they decide to retire to the study.
Where their unknown host will reveal their intentions.
Right, for fruit or dessert, coffee and brandy or whatever. And so Wadsworth has he has that letter to open after dinner. Mm-hmm. He opens it up with his little letter opener, and then he must explain what they have in common, unless Mr. Body wants to.
And he says, it's a hoax. We
Right.
should all leave.
Well, this is where he says, well, do they know who I am?
yeah.
And he was like, no.
So
you
I
never
don't get the way
revealed
he
yourself.
played this. He's the only one that throws me in this whole movie. Is I
Yeah.
still don't quite get if he's the blackmailer, or if he worked for Wadsworth and Wadsworth was the blackmailer,
Right?
or there's a
don't know.
third blackmailer we never see
Yet
that we
a
never
third?
met.
Blackmailer thrice?
I don't. You guys, we didn't solve Clue.
In two of the endings,
Yeah.
Mr. Body is Mr. Body's.
You guys probably can't hear any of this. In two of the endings, Mr. Body, what?
Okay, so Mr. Body's blackmailing everybody.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Body's blackmailing everybody.
He's revealed to be the true Mr. Body's butler.
Right. He's
Right.
revealed to be Mr. Body's butler.
But then it says Tim Curry
Yeah.
is the butler that worked for Mr. Body.
Right.
He's
Tim
Mr.
Curry's
White.
the former butler of Mr. Body.
Right.
He's an undercover FBI agent in two of the endings.
So we never meet Mr.
Oh.
Body.
True Mr. Body in the third ending.
Yeah.
So it's either Wadsworth as Mr. Body or we never meet Mr. Body.
Right.
So this guy's just some guy.
Well, in the game, Mr. Body is the body, right? Like, it's just not, it is just some random corpse, isn't it?
Mr. Body in
Or
three of
just
in the-
endings, he's the butler, Mr. Body.
Okay. So
oh, wait,
he is
no.
just the butler.
Oh, no. Like, I'm saying in the game, like the board game or whatever. Isn't there just like
It's just
a body?
he's the body.
Right. Like the body. Like, that's who, there's like a whole separate thing. You just
Well, and
gotta
it's
find
weird
out
to
who
make a
killed-
movie based on a board game.
I
So
know. Well, then I always get confused because in the board game, Mrs. White is the maid. And in
Oh, is
this,
she?
Mrs. White is Yvette.
is her own character.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
she
I
wears
wonder why
black.
they did that.
I don't know. I get confused. I mean, I love this movie. I don't give a shit really about
No,
any
it
of
doesn't
this.
matter.
Like, you don't have to tie up any loose ends for me.
No.
You don't have to explain shit to me. I'll love it just the same.
So yeah,
Anytime it's
whoever
raining.
he is, Mr. Body, the guy who's
Right.
Mr. Body, says it's a
Leaving.
hoax, and they should all leave. And he gets up to leave, but all the windows are barred and the doors are locked.
Right. So, oh wait.
Everyone's outraged. They're all being held prisoner. Wadsworth
Oh
like,
wait,
no,
this
no.
is what don't they talk about all the details first of like why everybody, like they talk about the blackmail and then Mrs. Peacock is like, why? My life is an open book.
No, it was not until after he runs off and tries to
Oh.
run to the greenhouse and sees that
I
other different guard
scrolled
dog.
too far. Yeah, those
That
ones
there's
are
a different type
Dobermans
of dog
outside
outside
back
that.
there.
Yeah.
And there's like German shepherds or something out front. Mm-hmm. Interesting.
So then they go to the study, they pass out the brandy,
Yes.
and that's when Wadsworth like, here's what we all have in common. We're all
Yes.
being blackmailed.
That's right.
And none of us know who we're being blackmailed by.
Right. And then here's where Mrs. Peacock is like, why would anybody
Not
want to
me.
blackmail me? My life is an open book. I've never done anything wrong.
She turns into Shaggy.
Right.
Wasn't me.
They saw her scheming in the bathroom.
It wasn't me.
Wasn't me. And he's like, anyone else wish to deny it?
And nobody does. Yvette is
course.
dismissed.
Mm-hmm.
Professor Plum reveals he's lost his license to practice medicine for doing what doctors aren't allowed to do with lady patients.
Do you know what doctors aren't allowed to do with lady patients? He did. Oh, that's disgusting. And he's like, are you judging?
You
Mrs.
should.
Peacock? Right. Yeah, you should, because
Yeah.
that is kind of worse.
Miss Peacock's taking bribes. That's not the same
Right?
thing as molesting your patients,
I
doctor.
mean, to deliver the senator husband's vote, like as a lot, like to certain lobbyists, like who knows what?
It's
the fuck
bad,
he's
I'm
like. Yeah,
sure.
that's bad.
But she's not personally molesting
like,
people.
no, that's
it's a
true.
bit removed from what he's doing.
That's true. That's true. I mean, like that's yeah. No, you're right. You're right. You're right. You're right. I'm thinking of the big picture.
Miss Scarlet, of course, admits freely to what she's being blackmailed for.
She's like, well, I
run a
it.
phone service and a what does she
Yeah,
call it? Not a brothel.
hotel and a phone service that
Yeah.
for gentlemen to share the company of a young lady for a short time.
And Professor Plum's like, well, could I get your digits?
Yeah, he's like, so what's that number?
Colonel Mustard's like, why? I'm not a client of yours.
Right, yeah, like I don't know about
Really?
that.
Because there's photographs.
And then of course, like
Are you trying to make me look stupid in front of the other guests?
You don't need my help, sir. That's right. Oh, that's right. And then Green wants to know if he's a client. He's not. And there's like a double negative is proof positive.
You find out that Mrs. White's husband died under mysterious circumstances.
Right. Scarlett laughs. She's like, that's why he's on his back. She's like, well, I didn't kill him. Well, then why pay the blackmail? And she didn't want the scandalo.
He was deranged. He was a lunatic. He threatened to kill me in public.
Why would he threaten to kill you in public? I think he threatened in public
to kill her.
I'm like, oh, was that his final word? Well, being killed was pretty final.
And he was a nuclear physicist.
But he was always the optimist. It must have come a great shock to him when he died.
His head was cut off. And, and he was and he was found at home.
Yeah.
But it wasn't her.
Yep. Nope.
His dick and his head were cut off, but it wasn't her.
It wasn't her. And they
She's
asked
not
her,
mad.
do you miss him? It's a matter of life after death. Now that he's dead, I have a life. But that was her second husband.
Her first husband disappeared.
But that was his job. He was an illusionist. And he never reappeared. Well, he wasn't a very good illusionist.
Mr. Green says he works for the State Department and he's a homosexual, so that's why he's being blackmailed.
He doesn't feel any personal shame.
No, he has no guilt about it, but
No,
he'll lose
but-
his job. It's 1954,
I
so
know.
he keeps it a secret.
And thank you. No F slurs. Not a one.
not a one,
even.
no H or F's
Nope.
in this. Thank
Nope.
you, Clue.
Thank you.
You're allowed to say homosexual. It's fine. And that leaves Mr. Body.
Right. And like, what's his deal? And he's like, oh, you haven't guessed? He's the one blackmailing you. So
Yeah.
now, if and he wasn't in the last ending, what have you, why would he go along with this?
I don't know. That's the part they don't explain.
Okay. Never mind.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
don't
care.
think
You know
they-
what? I don't care.
I don't know.
I don't care. So they get up and they all go to attack
And they have a
him.
Three Stooges fight.
Yes. And Mrs. White
Knees him in the
nads.
balls, yep.
Yeah. And then Wadsworth says, well, the police are coming.
And we'll just tell the police, we'll serve our time, and it'll all be over.
Blackmail depends on secrecy, so we'll tell them and it'll be over.
And he tells them that they're being tape recorded, and you see Yvette in another room with like the
Mm-hmm.
reel-to-reel recorder.
And in 45 minutes, they will be there and tell them the truth, and Mr. Body will be behind bars.
Mr. Body goes for his alligator bag.
Alligator bag.
And he opens in these boxes. I want a
Got
gift
this-
in the
I
black shiny box with the
know,
purple
with the
ribbon.
parcel.
It's kind of like the Joker giving out gifts or
Kind
something.
of. There was no gas masks in any of those.
But then says, I didn't know I was meeting you all tonight.
But I wrapped
Bitch, you
these
have an alligator bag full of specialty fucking gifts, enough
Yeah.
for everyone in the room.
just in case he like met a different set of people at a different dinner party.
Yeah, that none of this makes sense.
I don't know. It doesn't matter. You know what? It don't matter.
So Miss Scarlet gets a candlestick. Mrs.
Yes.
White has a noose. Mr. Green has a metal pipe. Colonel has a wrench. Professor has a revolver. Miss Peacock gets a dagger.
And in your hands, you each have a lethal weapon.
And if you tell the police about me, you will also be exposed. But if you kill Wadsworth now, no one but us will ever know.
Right? He has the key to the front door.
They said we could only open the door over his dead body.
and I suggest we take him up on that offer.
He shuts the
now.
door. He turns out the light.
And then it's thump, thump,
crash.
sigh, blast, scream.
Lights come on, and it's Mr. Body's body on the floor.
Peacock drops the knife.
Oh, the body's on the floor.
Oh!
Let the bodies hit the floor. Mr. Bodies hit the floor. No, all right.
No, all right.
And Professor Plum decides he is dead. But he has no gunshot wound. So
Oh,
how
right.
did he
like,
die?
You shot him. You shot him. There's no bullet wound. They broke the vase. How did he die? Well, Mr. Green didn't do it.
Mrs. Peacock takes a drink, and Professor Plum's like, "Oh,
Maybe
maybe
it
it was
was poison."
poison."
Ah! Ah!
Mr. Green fucking knocks
Just
her face out, like
wallop.
just slaps her.
Well, I had to stop her from screaming.
Yes.
Well,
It gives
was the
me
brandy poison?
Yeah,
He's
they
like
don't know.
Brad Majors.
the cognac.
Yes, we won't know unless she dies too.
And then they hear a scream from another room.
Oh my God, Yvette!
It's Yvette. She's locked up with a
You
murderer.
locked me up with the murderer, you idiot!
Who?
Where?
What
Here.
of you?
We're looking at him. Uh-huh.
That accent.
I know.
Oh my god.
So when she whispers, she drops it, right? Or can you not whisper in an accent?
there is a point where I wrote that she drops it, but I think it's like once he says she works for
Oh,
I think
maybe.
it's like that she never was French, but
She's
it's
like
always
the-
a fake
the
accent.
nurse or whatever from the Dr. Chagall's office, and Beth becomes her. She's like, the Dr.
Right.
Chagall, I'm sorry.
So Wadsworth stops the recording, collects
Mm-hmm.
the reels. They go back to the study.
I was listening.
And Wadsworth says he's Mr. Body's butler, or was ex-butler.
Right.
Or no, his current... and then He
No.
wrote the letters. He invited them. He's
Right.
the ex-butler. He was
Yes.
once the butler, but his wife committed suicide due to
Mm-hmm.
being blackmailed by Mr. Body.
Right, because his death was not the end of his employment. That was before, when his wife took herself out.
And why Mr. Body is blackmailing them all is that he hates them all for being thoroughly un-American.
Well, then why wouldn't he just report us?
Because making money off you is the most American thing you can do.
What's more American than that?
You find out Wadsworth's wife had friends who were socialists.
I know.
Oh my
Like Mrs. White offers her hanky.
Oh my
we all
goodness.
make mistakes.
So they had to be his slaves to pay his blackmail.
Long story short, too late. He
And
thought it was shitty, and then he decided to free himself and everybody else. He got them to get together and confront him and turn him into the police, but we still don't know who killed him.
Only the cook is left in the house.
The cook!
They all race to the kitchen.
Yes.
It
And
appears
I
to be
love these
empty.
where they like run through
All the
hallways.
running, yeah.
Oh,
it's
my
like
favorite.
a Looney Tunes in real life.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ah.
And it appears to be empty.
Yes, they go in there and they're looking for the cook, and then she falls out of the freezer into Green's arms.
I didn't do it.
Somebody help me. Somebody help me.
She's got a dagger in her back.
Oh, Wadsworth better explain himself.
Who would want to kill the cook? Dinner wasn't that bad.
How can you make jokes? It's
It
my
was monkey
defense
brains.
mechanism. Well, they don't know that.
That's true.
And then it was like, if I was the killer, I'd kill you next. Like, why would you say something like that?
Yeah, that's not a good thing to say.
No, not a good idea. He said, I said if.
And then we find out that Mrs. White has had only 5 husbands.
Mine or other women's.
Husbands should be like Kleenex, soft, strong, and disposable.
You lure men like spider to flies. Flies are where men are most vulnerable. And they were like, Mrs. Peacock had the dagger, but she doesn't know where she dropped it.
And Wadsworth wants to drag the cook's body back to the study because,
He's the butler. He likes to keep the kitchen
Yeah.
tidy.
so they do. Mr. Body's body is gone.
They dropped the cook.
They got to look for him.
Yep.
Could
He
it be
couldn't-
life after
they're
death?
Looking under. They're looking under the couch. Like, where would he have gone?
And life after death is as improbable as sex after marriage.
But then Miss Peacock needs the little girl room.
Wee
Little
wee?
girls- No, I just gotta powder my nose.
And then Wadsworth has the Colonel's pictures.
Oh, Scarlett grabs them. She's like, "Oh, you want to see these, Yvette? They may shock you."
But then suddenly, Mr. Body is attacking Mr. Peacock.
Oh, Mr. Peacock.
Mr.
Mrs. Peacock was
is
a
a man! Oh my God! I let it slip too soon.
No, I let it slip.
Slip.
So yeah, she's screaming, "Get off of me!" And he's attacking her, and now he's dead again.
Yes. So Wadsworth says, "Fall into my
Oh
arms."
yeah, she's gonna faint, and she just
He just drops her. Yeah.
Right. And then he's like, "You've got blood on your hands, and it's green again." I didn't do it.
Body has new injuries, so
Yes.
now we don't know what has happened.
That's what we're trying to find out.
Who killed him? Where? And with what?
There's no need to shout. I'm not shouting.
And before we find out who killed him, where, and with what, let's take a quick break.
I'm shouting. I'm shouting. I'm shouting.
We'll be right back. All right, one thing you guys may not know about Doom Generation Podcast is we are some cheapskates.
Dude, we do not like to spend the coin at all.
So when we were about to do this podcast, we did some major searching into what is the cheapest way
We did more research into how to do this than
that
we
we
do
do for
into
the
our
podcast.
podcast.
And let me tell you what, this Anchor is like the only free platform that distributes your podcast for you to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and a whole bunch of other places.
You can do all kinds of stuff when you're doing it too. You can record your sound effects, you can manage your episodes, and you can track your little analytics.
Yep, you can see where everybody's listening from, how often they're listening.
From your phone, from
Yep.
your computer.
You
Like
can
we
record from
probably
your
still
phone.
would not have had any episodes out.
If it were not
If
for
it were
Anchor,
not for not- if it
this
were not for
podcast
Anchor,
would not be in your
we
ear
would
holes
still-
right now.
No, it would not. We would still be just recording it for ourselves.
Yep, listening back to ourselves in
Laughing
the
at our
garage.
own jokes.
So if you would like to have a podcast, but you don't know if you want to spend any money, you need to go get this Anchor app or go to anchor.fm and get started now.
And we now return you to your regularly scheduled programming. And we're back. And boop, the candlestick falls on Wadsworth.
That's immediate.
Because I was shouting last time.
Oh, okay.
And then that's when it hits him. And then they take the corpses to the sofa. And the ladies have to struggle to lift the cook.
Yeah, they're like, mostly the ladies are doing the heavy lifting
Right, like,
here.
don't get blood on the sofa. Tip her forward.
And Professor Plum can't help touching that dead bum.
I know. And he gets stuck, doesn't he? Who gets stuck between the two? Is it Mr.
Yeah, I think
Green?
it's-
Or is it... Oh,
Plum's on
'cause
the
he
couch.
puts
Yeah.
his head. And then they, like...
Wadsworth collects up all the weapons, locks them in the cupboard.
They close Mr. Body's eyes.
Yes. And so he puts the key in his pocket, and they're like, well, if you've got it, how do we know we're safe?
Right. And he's like, well, I'll throw it away. So they run out, and he goes to throw it, and there's a guy out there.
He says his car broke down. He wants to use their phone.
Oh, and Wadsworth puts the key in his pocket, and they discuss whether or not, like, well, where is it? And he's like, where? The body? What body? There's no body in the study. And when you're done, would you be so good as to wait here?
So you take him to the phone, asks him to wait there, locks him in.
And Mustard's like, wait a minute, where's the key?
Yeah, still wants him to throw the key away.
Right, so he throws it out the front door into the rainy night.
And then Mrs. White wants out, and they're like, fine, we'll blame you for these murders if you leave.
Right, and now Mustard needs a drink. He's like, I'll say you killed them both.
No man in his right mind would be alone together with you.
Oh, yeah, someday when we're alone together. And then, so they go to get another drink, and then, like, Mustard looks in there. He's like, yep, just checking. 2 corpses. Everything's fine.
Oh, yeah, everything's fine when there's 2 corpses.
Right, and he does this wild-ass pour, like...
Oh, yeah, and tries to get an answer about whether there's anyone else in the house.
This who's on first bit.
Uh-huh.
Like, yes, there is, or no, there isn't.
Yes.
No, maybe. Well, definitely. And then White breaks the glass, like, please!
Fine, there's no one in the house. That's what he says. But does he know?
We'll handle this like we do in the military. We'll split up and search the house in pairs, and whoever... They're like, yeah, but who...
If one of us is murdered, well, then it's the
Then
other
we
one. Then we
know.
know who it is.
But they'll be dead. This is war, Peacock!
Casualties are inevitable. You can't make an omelet without breaking eggs. Ask any cook.
But look what happened to the cook!
So all the men but Mr. Green volunteer to go with Yvette.
Right, he's no thank you.
And Wadsworth's like, you know what? We're going to draw lots.
Right, so Green ends up with Yvette, White and Wadsworth, Mustard and Scarlet, and Plum and Peacock. It's you and me,
Honey bunch. Ugh. I
Gross.
love Christopher Lloyd, but
I
he's so good
know.
at being creepy in this.
I know, and it's like, it's almost not even all that creepy.
But it's just some
I know.
subtle, there's just a
Ah.
subtle creepiness.
Ugh. And then, like, remember I thought the movie was paused with how long Green and Yvette stand in that doorway? I was like, is the movie paused? Did it, like freeze
no,
up?
they just won't go
No,
up the stairs.
They're scared.
They go out in their pairs, trying to move around the house without turning their backs to each other.
Right.
And that's when Plum and Peacock are going to, or they're going to the cellar, right?
Right. And she's like, ladies first.
No,
Like,
you go ahead.
I insist. Like, what are you afraid of? A fate worse than death? Like, isn't death enough?
Mrs. White and Wadsworth are checking upstairs in rooms separately.
They're doing this Marx Brothers shit where they're like in the door and then out the door. And like,
Did you come? Nope.
Yeah.
All right, still there?
it reminds me of that time that they did that bit on I Love Lucy and Harpo was on the show and Lucy was dressed up as Harpo and they did the thing in the mirror.
I vaguely remember that. Wow.
I love Lucy.
That's why they called that show that. Mustard and Scarlet go to check the billiards room.
Right.
And again, they get stuck behind the bar because he's like, ladies first. No thanks. But then immediately still
They
tries
go
to go first and
together.
wedges herself in with him.
Right. And then Green and Yvette are still paused on the doorway. And he's like, I'll be right behind you. Like, that's what I'm afraid of.
We go together.
And they like squeeze.
Them titties trying
I
to
know.
squeeze up the stairs.
Oh, oh, oh.
Mustard leaves Scarlet to check behind the curtains while he goes back in the kitchen to check. He's like,
He's
yeah,
like,
if
I'm
you
gonna
can
go
check
check the
someone
kitchen
behind the
again.
curtains, you
You
go
go
ahead.
check it.
You
Yeah.
handle it.
Yeah, handle it. And then she finds out that it's a broken window ruffling the drapes. Like, oh, okay.
So then we see the cops pull up outside.
Well, they find the car down the road.
So
or-
that's where that guy like
I know he was
crashed on a fucking boulder.
right, and he was supposed
And he
to
was
be
supposed
there?
to be there. So that doesn't make sense to me
And why
either.
didn't he say he was supposed to be
Yeah,
there?
he didn't. He just said his car broke down.
I don't. I'm gonna.
And
keep
that's not
asking these
broke
questions.
down.
No,
that's like you
on
rammed
a-
it into a fucking boulder.
What the fuck was that? I don't know. I don't know.
So while the cops inspecting this car, you see someone inside going through all the evidence and putting it in the fire.
right,
Someone wearing black gloves, so you can't tell if
Oh.
it's a man or a woman.
nope, you can't tell.
And they unlock the weapons cupboard too.
With the key and takes out the wrench.
And there's a man in the office still making his phone call, saying he's nervous because he's been locked in.
He's in the lounge when there's a group of people, and one of them is my own old boss.
And then
from-
bam, hit
He
with a
gets
wrench.
Hit with the wrench, and they hang the phone up with it.
And the cop, okay, he's still out there looking at this car. Like, what else is there to look at?
I don't know.
You see
I
the
don't
boulder?
know.
You see the car rammed onto the boulder? You don't see nobody in the car? End
They
of fucking
walk
investigation.
somewhere. Yeah,
Go
I mean,
away from the
he's
car now.
Being thorough.
I get in the rain. Like, what is there to
Sure.
see?
What else is he fucking doing?
True.
ACAB.
So Mustard and Scarlet are searching the conservatory, and he falls through a secret door to a passage.
Yes.
So they
Where
go
does
check it
lead
out.
to? And he's like, well, what the hell? I'll go first. I've had a good life.
And it comes out to where the phone call guy is now dead on the floor. So they
The
start
motorist
scream.
is on the floor. Scarlet screams. The door closes, and they can't get out.
They're locked in. So
Right.
everyone from everywhere else runs out and runs into each other trying to get to them.
Right. Let us in. Let us in.
Let us out! Let us out!
The door is locked. I know.
And so Yvette has a solution.
Right. Wadsworth first tries to break it down.
Oh,
he,
and almost breaks his
bounces
arm.
right off of it. So Yvette runs.
She gets the gun from the cabinet, shoots the chandelier.
She trips and shoots the chandelier.
Right.
Then the lock hitting Mustard.
Yes.
I've been shot. I've been shot.
And then she shoots the lock off the door. Come out. The door is open.
Like Mustard comes out. He's like, I can't take any more scares.
And crash! The chandelier falls behind him.
He probably pooped.
Yeah.
He kerneled mustard in his pants.
Oh! A Grey Poupon!
When you're sliding into first and you're feeling something burst, diarrhea. Diarrhea.
You guys remember that one? Come
did.
on.
You remember from a couple episodes back.
And so Scarlet points out there's a new dead body.
Right. The motorist is dead and the gun was from the cupboard, but it was unlocked. Yes. See for yourself.
And the doorbell rings.
Oh, maybe they'll go away.
Ring, ring.
Ring, ring. And it
Green's
rings
like,
again.
I'm gonna open it.
I've got nothing to hide. And then it's the cop. And they almost go to close the door. And he's like, no, I found the car up there. Did the driver come here? And they're like, no. Well, yes.
So he asks to come in and use the phone.
No, in the study. No, in the
There's
lounge.
bodies
No,
everywhere.
there's in the library. So they take the cop, and he wants to know, like, don't I know you from someplace? And
To
White,
Yvette.
or no, to Mrs. White, isn't it?
Oh,
Or
I thought it
no,
was
to
Yvette.
No, it is because I get confused because the maid and Mrs. White, in the
Right.
game or whatever.
And he
Yes.
notices that they're nervous.
You all seem jumpy.
And they're like, well, the chandelier fell down. It almost killed us.
Have a drink. Not the cognac, just in case.
So they
in
lock-
case of what?
Yeah, they lock him up in the library. And then they say we need to clean up the chandelier. Why? Like, is that really the focus right
That's
now? The
not-
priority?
He's the butler. He likes to keep
Got a
things
buttle.
tightly.
Got a bottle.
Tightly. He likes to keep it
Butler's got a
tightly. He
bottle.
runs a tight ship. He likes to keep it tidy. That's what I meant.
And-
Sure.
and-
Ethel Merman.
And so, and like, why would anyone have been surprised to see that cop? He said he called the cops.
Yeah.
So why
But
were
it
they all
was
like,
before
the cop?
time.
Like, they
The
were
cop-
really
well, they
looking
said
at their fucking watches?
The copsa. It was just coppa. So, I mean, you know, it was surprising.
But then an incoming call comes in and the cop
He
answers.
just answers the fucking phone.
Well,
Was
they
he
locked him in.
Columbo?
They locked him in.
He's
What are you gonna do?
Columbo.
He's Columbo.
That's true.
So
He's like, let me out. I'll book you on false arrest, wrongful imprisonment, obstruction of an officer in the duty, and murder.
And they open the door.
What do you mean? Murder.
Well, I just said that to get you to open the door.
Right. And he's like, why are you getting calls from J. Edgar Hoover?
The head of the FBI is calling.
Right? He's on everybody else's phone. Why shouldn't he be on mine?
So Wadsworth goes in. Wadsworth goes in to take the call. And Scarlett tells the cop they're just having a party and tells Mr. Green to show him around.
Right. Show him the dining room or the kitchen. Or
Any
the
room without a
ballroom.
dead body
Please
in it.
do. But she's got a plan.
So they stage a makeout party with these
Oh.
bodies, Plum and Scarlet.
Right? That's exactly what I wrote. It's a makeout party. Is that a thing?
And like, why is Green was about to tell on everybody, so why is he complicit in this cover up of the makeout party?
Don't know, because he thinks maybe the rest of them will jump him if he don't.
So Mrs. White's making out with Mr. Body's corpse.
Ugh.
Mustard's making out with Mrs. Ho's corpse.
Like he's trying to hold her eyes
Yeah.
open, like that's not obvious. Like, what is it? Peacock's got her hands.
Scarlet sets the fourth dead guy up to look drunk
In the
while
cuck
her
chair.
and Plum are macking it. Yep.
Oh, he's into it.
And like, he doesn't think it's strange that the same people that were just out there all nervous
Right,
talking
are
to him are now
now-
fully macking it with
Well,
people
'cause
in
it
another
was a
room.
makeout party that he interrupted.
And they're like,
he's-
oh, whatever. The cop's in the office. Let's go back
he's
to making
making
out.
a phone call. Let's go back. So he's like, this guy is drunk. He's dead drunk. He won't be driving, will he?
Oh, no, he won't be driving.
Anywhere. I promise you that. We'll get him a long black car, a limousine.
So Wadsworth comes off the call, and the cop's like, look, there's nothing illegal about any of this.
I can explain. He was like, no, it's a free country.
I didn't know it was that free.
And then like Green's mugging behind him, like, cool it. Like, it's fine. It's good.
So they let him back in to use the phone, but they still lock him in.
Yeah.
Because they have to finish searching the house. Only 15 minutes till the police came. The
That's
police are here.
The police have already come.
So they go look some more for the murderer.
Scarlet and Mustard in the kitchen, and he gets hit with the ironing board. And
Mm-hmm.
then Scarlet finds another secret passage to the study in the Fraza. You want me to do it? I'll do it.
Well, he does say chandelier. In this.
Chandelier.
Yes. And the
wants to
power
swing
is
from it.
shut off by a gloved hand.
Oh, yes. And this is while Yvette and Green are in the attic, and then the power is shut off, and everyone has a scare. Yvette runs down the stairs into the billiard room and shut the door.
Did anyone recognize you?
Yes, and not just my face, every inch of my body.
And then a noose is thrown around her neck. It's you! And that's when, so her French accent has gone through all this. So I don't know if it's because
I don't know if it's because she's
whispering or because she was never French and that was part of her little French maid
I guess.
cosplay, whatever.
So then the cop is on the phone like, Molly, I'm in danger, girl.
When bam, metal pipe hits him.
Right. He's talking about I'm in that big ugly house up on.
Yeah, they always
Hello?
get him just in the neck.
Right. He gets booped with the pipe and the bell rings and everybody looks around in the dark and it's da 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 da. I am your singing telegram.
Bang! And I wrote, why is there a killer clown Jack in the Box in
I
the
know. It
bathroom?
looks like Pennywise.
There's like, when they're searching the house, there's a fucking Jack in the Box.
Yeah.
A
like
huge
it's huge.
one.
It's like, it's got to be like a. Well, no, that was after.
Yeah. I
Huh.
don't know.
Did he draw inspiration from the giant Jack in the Box to become Pennywise?
I don't know. And then Wadsworth
Interesting.
turns the shower on himself.
Yes.
The lights finally come back on. Everybody comes back to the front hall and they're
Right,
like,
they're
oh
like,
shit, Yvette's dead on the
Yvette's
pool
dead.
table.
The cop's dead. They're like, whatever.
Oh, I heard a gunshot.
Oh, fuck. 3 murders.
They find the
Okay.
telegram girl. That makes 6 murders.
Mhm. And Wadsworth says, okay, I know who did it.
I know how it was all done.
Right. And
Follow
more
me.
So I will tell you how we did it.
So he goes through it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how much we want to go through it because he's going to go through it 3
Oh,
times.
right. Well, I do like the same setup. He was like, I was standing in the hall. I know because I was there. And then Colonel Mustard showed up. Yvette smiled. Blink. He smiled. Blink. And then Mrs. White showed up looking very pale and tragic. And then I noticed that Yvette and Mrs. White flinched. And then the cook and, oh, that's what he says. Like the cook and Yvette were accomplices. Like, did you not deduce that the cook and Yvette were accomplices too?
One by one, you all arrived and we went
Right,
to the
yeah.
dining room.
Oh, yeah. He says it again, like to make a long story short. Too late.
Too
One
late.
by one, you all arrived. So then he talks about how Yvette knew Scarlet because she was her boss. And then Wadsworth goes through the passage. Like he like drags her up and falls her on the floor. And then like, don't they? Oh, he falls out on the floor from the freezer because he goes back the other
Well, first
way.
he turns out the lights in the
Oh, right,
study
they
and they
all
all scream
scream.
because he's on the floor
That's
playing
right.
dead.
He's like, by now she was dead. Oh no, that was
Mr.
the
Body
other thing.
pretended to be dead because
Right.
the scheme misfired.
That's
and then he
right.
slaps Mrs. Peacock
Right,
again,
he's
even
like,
though she's
"Well,
not
I
screaming.
had to stop her screaming.
And then the billiard room. One of us wasn't here. Maybe
Right.
one of us was murdering the cook.
Oh, right. And then they we ran down the hall, picked up the dagger.
Run down the hall, stab the cook. No one
Uh-huh.
would see if he used the secret passage.
Right. So he gets there, and then when they open up, they're like, "Where is he?" or whatever.
And he's known all along. This is his friend's house. He
right.
says.
Yeah. And he was like, "Would you stop?" No.
The cook worked for one of them, and Mrs. White recognized Yvette.
Mm-hmm.
She said her husband had an affair with her, but she wasn't jealous. She worked for Miss Scarlet also.
Right.
So Mustard has photos with Yvette and Flagrante.
Flagrante.
They run to the kitchen, and Wadsworth falls out of the fridge.
Right. He's like,
By now she was
By
dead.
now she was dead. And so one of us went through the passageway to the study and followed Mr. Body into the hall, right?
Right. Locked up the weapons, ran to the front door to throw away the key, and there was the motorist.
Right.
And so Green starts putting together the links. Oh, the Colonel's working on a fusion bomb.
Mhm. He's like, "Can you keep a secret?"
So can I.
So Wadsworth knew the motorist.
And yeah, so it says Wadsworth invited the motorist. So
Right.
why did he crash and then say, I crashed out, or not even I crashed, I had
Right,
car
he's just
trouble.
Like, I had car trouble. And so he knew that the motorist was Mustard's driver in the
In the war,
or
right.
whatever. He was like, "Yes, I was a war profiteer."
Mm-hmm.
Or first he says, I came into all my money when my mommy and daddy died.
That's
was
what he
earlier.
says earlier,
But
yeah.
then, he was a war profiteer on the bum radios. And then Mrs. Peacock yells at him well, a lot of our airmen died because of the faulty radios.
So the cop was on Scarlett's payroll in Washington.
And the singing telegram girl.
Plum's patient once, who he had an affair with, and that's how he lost his license.
So in the study with the others, the envelope has all the evidence, probably in the fire.
Oh.
It's the only possible place.
The murderer must have stolen the key from his pocket. So Mustard says again, they got to split up and search the
wrench,
house.
The doorbell rang, and whoever it was, the doorbell rings again, and it's like, whoever it is, they have to go away or they're going to be killed.
And they open the door, and it's WKRP in Cincinnati.
It's the head of the class
It's the head of the
teacher.
class. Howard
like,
Hessman is there to sell them some Jesus.
Have you ever given any thought to the kingdom of heaven?
Your souls are in danger.
Our lives are in danger, you beatnik. And then, of course,
Back to the story.
Right.
Lights out again.
and then 3 more murders.
Well, none of us killed Mr. Body or the cook. It was the one person who wasn't with us, Yvette.
Bum.
And why? To create confusion.
Right. Yeah, it worked.
Was it because she was acting on orders from the person who later killed her? Or was their employer, Miss Scarlet?
Whoever has the gun did it. Gentlemen, turn out your pockets. Ladies, open your purses. And
Scarlet has the gun.
and Herb, I applaud you.
Her real business is secrets.
And she's going to keep selling her secrets to the highest bidder.
Yvette found those secrets out for her.
And she's not a communist. She's a capitalist.
That's
Communism was just a red
herring. Like all members of the oldest profession, I'm a capitalist.
That's right.
And I sell your secrets to the highest bidder. So they're going to expose her. They have no more money.
Right.
She's like, yeah, but you can pay me in government information.
But Wadsworth doesn't think there's any more bullets in that gun.
So then they do the whole 1 + 1 + 2 + 2,
One,
whatever.
yeah, the point is, there's one bullet, and you're the guy that gets it. And then the bell rings.
And he grabs the gun, and the cops pour in.
Mustard's only a guest.
Wadsworth says, where's the chief?
He's the beatnik.
And there he comes, the Jesus guy.
Right.
WKRP.
Frankly, Scarlet, I don't give a damn.
Don't hate me for trying to shoot you. Yeah,
Right.
frankly, Scarlet, I don't give a damn.
And like I said, there's no more bullets in this gun. And he shoots the chandelier, and down it comes.
And that's how it could have happened.
But how about this?
So we start mid-story.
Same lead up. And this time,
Mrs. Peacock murdered them all.
don't you remember your fatal mistake? Monkeys' brains are not often found in Washington, D.C.
Well, popular in Cantonese cooking.
Is that what we ate?
And so the cook used to be her cook, and that was her mistake.
And again, communism is just a red herring,
It was just Mrs. Peacock.
right? And
And
then
she's got the gun.
right, and she's like, "Well, I'm going to leave first. Nobody
Well, what do you plan to
minds."
do about it? Nothing.
Nothing,
You've done the world a favor.
right?
Police will be here any minute. Well, why should the police come?
Nobody's called them,
Let's stack the bodies in the cellar and leave quietly like nothing happened.
right? And so she wants to leave first, so they say,
For she's a jolly good fellow, for she's a jolly good fellow, for she's a jolly good fellow.
Which nobody can't deny.
Yeah.
deny.
And she backs out of the house, and Wadsworth's like, the FBI will take care of her.
Right.
I
well,
work
that's-
for Herbert Hoover.
And then, like, Mrs. Peacock, the kingdom of heaven is at hand. And then they all bust in and arrest her.
Like the Mounties, we always get our man.
Mrs. Peacock was a man?
Slap!
Would anyone care for fruit or dessert?
But here's what really happened.
Yep, same lead up, and Plum knew Body was alive, and he killed Body.
He killed him later unobserved.
Right. Peacock killed the cook.
He was missing in the kitchen, but he was still with us in the billiard room. He didn't kill the cook. Peacock did.
Right. Mustard killed the motorist.
Mm-hmm.
Mrs. White killed Yvette because you were jealous. Yes.
I did it.
Hated her so much. Flames on the side of my face. Yeah, and she
Breathing,
did ad lib
heaving breaths.
because she's a genius.
And so you find out.
Keep a straight face.
I don't know.
know. I'm sure there was so many breaks.
There
There's
has
gotta
to be so many
much B-roll.
outtakes.
Like, yeah, there's gotta be. And then Scarlett killed the cop. She's like, "True. Who are you, Perry Mason?"
I know she loves it. She's
I
like,
know.
yes,
I'm
I'm
this.
into it. Is this
Yes,
Columbo?
girl,
Is
right?
this an episode of
Are you
Columbo?
gonna close talk and eat some chili?
I love it.
Do you need to take a phone call?
The gun is missing. Whoever has it shot the girl.
Right, and
It's Wadsworth.
Green didn't shoot the girl, right? But then he does. Oh wait, this is like Wadsworth chooses to expose himself. Like, please, there's ladies present. And
I'm Mr. Body.
right, and he's like, the other guy, he's my butler, and I thank you for killing off my informants and spies.
Communism was just a red herring. The police will be here any minute. Why should they come? Nobody's called them.
And Green's like, why not?
So-
I'll tell you why.
Yes, he's like, he shoots Wadsworth.
Good shot, Green. Very good.
Are you a cop?
He died.
Are you a cop?
He's like, I'm a plant.
I thought men like you were called a fruit.
Oh,
That's as close as we get
I
to
know,
an F slur.
right? And like,
I work for the FBI.
right, that call for from Hoover, it was for me.
Told you I didn't do it.
Right, and then so they all come in, and he's like, "Take him away. I'm gonna go home and sleep with."
Well, first he
my
says,
wife."
if you want to know who killed Mr. Body,
it was me,
I did
With
in
the
the hall
revolver.
with the revolver.
Yeah.
Okay, Chief, take him away.
Yeah.
I'm going to go home and sleep with my wife. He makes sure you know in the end
Hmm. Yes, that
that
he's not
he is
really-
not a homosexual.
He just wants you to know he's a manly man. He's not accident prone.
I do love Michael McKean
I
and like
do.
everything,
And
though. I have
love
nothing bad to
everybody
say.
in this
Oh,
movie
for
and
sure.
everything.
For sure, for sure.
It's so good. I don't know why I typed out monkey's brains at the bottom.
You
for-
did? Just at
by
the
itself.
end?
No, I did a couple spaces. Wrote monkey's brains.
Indiana Jones?
Sounds good. Ooh,
Indiana
I
Jones.
hate
Yeah,
that
I
in the
hate that
Temple of
scene.
Doom.
Yeah.
Kalima Shaktani,
Oh,
Kalima.
we're gonna have to do that one.
Oh yeah, no, the steak. No snack, no step on snack.
So we don't have any formal yearbook reviews, but we have a couple of things that I have snagged. We have screenshotted off the internet that I have to read out today.
Screenshotted off the internet.
I have. So we have one from Instagram user Halloween Town
Hey.
who says, I must extend my valid appreciation of your continuing hilarity we look forward to every week. Keep up the sidetracks. It's the best part. Sometimes I'm waiting for you to go a little further, and that's when you stop. Don't hold back. The riffing will always help the material you're reading.
You don't know
It's
what
not
you've
going
done.
anywhere. Your spontaneity is what we're here for.
You don't know what you've done.
You don't know what you've done,
You
sir.
don't know what
Sir.
you've done.
And then we've got one from the Apple Boys podcast that says, your show has some of my favorite cover art and intro theme, and it's very well edited from what I can tell. Little do you know.
okay.
You two always seem to have a great time, too.
We are.
And from Twitter user Panic at the Bistro
Ha!
at Pajamas Elephant.
All right.
He says, just want to give a shout out to Doomgen Pod for putting NSFW in their bio, which meant it was the first thing I played at work a couple weeks ago because I took it as a challenge. And also, I was already a fan anyway. And fun fact, totally safe for my work.
Well, that's good.
It would not be for mine, for sure. I don't think I could play our podcast on my work.
No, not during the day while people are trying to work.
And then I want to give a quick shout out to Spade Designs, only because he spent so much time going through our
Oh, I
Fast
know.
Times at Ridgemont
That's
High
right.
episode.
Oh my God.
He sent me timestamps of,
like
I think
every
he sent
2
25
minutes.
timestamps.
It was a lot.
Yeah.
It was a lot. And bless you for it, really.
And
I'm
then,
glad you enjoyed it.
so he sent me this, and I got to say, this is maybe usable. We could do this on TikTok.
Oh,
So he says, there's a point when you all say to lock the door when jacking, and it's like a PSA, really. He goes, he doesn't say picture it, but I'm going to do picture it. Sicily, 1932. A mostly empty room, light fog. Enter you and Tessa. Hey there, Doomers. It's Nicole and Tessa. Lines would go from one to the other. You work all day. You work hard. You get home. You want to relax, kick back, unwind, maybe crank one out in an unlocked room, right? Wrong. Camera is now behind y'all. You turn both to face it and point at the same time. Don't jack it with unlocked doors.
That's-
More you know.
Yes, the more you know.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
and
gonna-
knowing is half the battle.
So yes, he says we should make a serious seeming PSA about how you shouldn't jerk off with the
Serious
door
seeming.
unlocked.
That's serious.
But you know what I mean, like
Yeah,
where
no,
we
I
play
know.
it
I know.
serious.
We play it hard.
So I got to give him a shout out for
Yes,
that one
we
because
gotta
that was
do
a
it.
good idea.
You know what? Maybe we just will.
Maybe we will.
And maybe while we're in there, we'll do Bloody Mary. I don't know. We keep
God
saying that.
damn it. we could- Bloody Melissa.
Bloody
Come
Melissa.
to my window. It's almost Halloween.
I know,
Maybe
it's-
it's Bloody Melissa time.
It's Bloody Melissa time. When's her birthday? We got to do it like on her birthday or
Oh,
something.
yeah. We'll look that up.
We'll have to.
And yeah, I think that's all we've got this week. I mean, Clue is our all the time,
yeah, it's
every
my
time
legit
movie.
rainy day
Leave it
movie.
on no matter where you find it in the movie. You watch
all
it
good.
from, yes.
I still laugh. I mean, like I was losing my shit.
Oh, yeah,
I know what's coming. I laugh any fucking way.
for sure.
Every single person.
This is
in it
another one like Young
fantastic.
Frankenstein where it's
Yeah.
so good and it's so wall-to-wall comedy that like what can you even say to make it
Oh, yeah.
funny? Like
Again,
it's just
we
funny.
missed your favorite line.
I'm
You
sure.
know,
I'm
whatever.
sure. Yeah.
But we tried. We did.
And
but
if
we love
you
it.
want to hear us talk about anything that's not movies, you should join our
Oh,
Patreon.
there's all
Patreon.com/Doom
kinds of
Generation.
bullshit.
We talk about other nonsense that's not movies from the 80s and 90s.
we just talk about whatever.
It's sometimes before the show, it's sometimes after the show, it's sometimes instead of the show
Yeah.
because we drank too much.
Sometimes.
So if you want to hear the nonsense we talk about when we've drunk too much,
Oh, I said sometimes.
Doom Generation.
And then I thought of that sometimes some crimes go slipping through the cracks, but
What is
these
that?
two gumshoes are picking up the slack.
What is that from?
Chip and Dale's
Rescue Rangers. When there's danger, it never fails.
yeah, that's what I thought of. So there you go. That was a little extra. That's what kind of shit happens on Patreon.
And on that note,
We'll talk at you next time.
later,
Doomers.
Doomers.